petite introduction Maharaj. So a small introduction. His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami is our governing body commission. That is, he is the chief of Mauritius and around in African countries also, some African countries. So we welcome Maharaj for the program today for question and answers.
Merci beaucoup.
So the format will be changed this year, Maharaj.
Right.
We will have a sort of podcast.
Right.
So we'll shoot you questions.
Yes.
Shoot you questions. And then we'll have questions from the public also.
Okay.
Okay.
Bien bon. Tout correct.
Merci Maharaj. Donc nous aussi faire nous faisons un petit peu prédéo dans mon public. Venez, entrez, assisez, venez écouter, pose question. Venez, assisez, pose question.
Venez, entrez, assisez, écoutez, et what disez, would you say? Question. Okay, pose it. Okay.
Maharaj, we start podcast first.
May tayar ho.
So, Maharaj, direct question to inspire us. How have you joined the Hare Krishna movement?
Oh, okay. I will chant a couple of verses. Is that okay? On a couple? Yeah, sure. Nama Om Vishnu Hare Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swananiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paspachade Shatarane Vanchikalpachuribhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitana Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Vini assise. S'il vous plaît. Okay. How did I come to the Krishna consciousness movement? All right. Well, I could write a book about that.
A few of the highlight, Maharaj.
It would take, a few. Yes, well, in the late 60s, George Harrison of the Beatles helped the devotees in London make a record of the Hare Krishna mantra, and it was top of the hit parade all over the world, including in New Zealand where I was. So I heard it a lot, and all my friends heard it, and it was top of the hit parade. So we all thought that this is cool, super duper cool. So that was the first thing. So I became interested. What is this Hare Krishna? Sounds very interesting. The Beatles. Ooh. So a couple of years later, 1972, I was in university in Auckland, and in April, who should come to the university but Srila Prabhupada? I was walking through the university grounds, and I heard a sound, very gentle, soft sound, like little bells ringing, you could say. And so I looked across. It was coming from my right-hand side. So I looked across to the right, and maybe 10, 15 meters away was Srila Prabhupada. I didn't know who he was. And there were two young ladies in their early 20s in saris, dancing on either side of him, like not even 1 meter away, and dancing very gracefully. And as they're dancing, they're throwing rose petals under Srila Prabhupada's feet. And I saw this amazing sight. I'd never seen anyone doing like that before, not even for very famous people, to throw flowers under their feet. No one ever did that. So I saw them doing that with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was walking in a very sort of elegant way with his head up like this, and the girls throwing the rose petals. And I thought, this thought just appeared in my mind, this must be like heaven. Anyway, it's a little bit of a long story, but so they're walking up towards me. So the first thing to remember is that Prabhupada was the first devotee I saw. He was the first one. And because I was very conditioned, it needed Srila Prabhupada to wake me up. Any of the other devotees, they wouldn't have been able to wake me up. But Prabhupada did. So then Prabhupada and his disciples walked past me, sat down on a little stage in the center of the university. I mean, just, 100 meters or 50 meters away. And Prabhupada started singing Hare Krishna. And I realized, oh, this is Hare Krishna, which I had heard a year or two, a couple of years before. This is Hare Krishna. And, it's a long story, but it influenced, Prabhupada's association influenced me very much. And I started immediately seeing the world differently, and seeing myself differently, and seeing people differently, and I realized people are not happy running around working hard and doing this and doing that, etc. They may feel they need to, but they're not happy doing it. Yes. So anyway, a little later, this is April 72. Where were you in April 1972? You in your previous lifetime. That's the correct answer, actually. But you were born, weren't you? 72. How old were you?
18 years.
Oh, 18 and 72. Okay, you're just slightly younger than me. Or maybe the same. I was 20. So anyway, yes, that was April. In August, I went to Australia, and I used to surf, and there was a very extremely famous surfer named Ted Spencer, who had become a devotee and become initiated by Prabhupada. He was Hare Krishna Das. And he gave one of his friends a Simply Wonderful. You've heard of Simply Wonderfuls? Have you heard of Simply Wonderful? It was about this size, the biggest one on record, the Guinness Book of Records. And he gave this, Ted Spencer gave it to this young man, surfer, whose name was Spider, Haribol, and told Spider to take it to all the surfers in Sydney, Australia, and get everyone to take a bite. So when it came to me, it was smaller, and there were many bite marks. And I looked at this thing, and the fellow spied, he said, Ted Spencer wants you to take a bite. Go and take a bite. And I thought, what? Are you serious? But I took a bite, and that was the first prasadam I had. That was probably September of 72. Then, anyway, long story, then I was interested in Krishna consciousness. It was quite fascinating. I went to London, and I started visiting the temple. And on January the 7th, 1973, I moved into the temple as a guest, and I am still there as a guest. Anyway, yeah, that's the story in a nutshell.
So you have joined the Hare Krishna since a very young age. So you have got young people in front of you. So what were the challenges that you met at that time?
I was 21. Yes, I was 21. And my main challenge would have been my parents, because my father was a successful businessman in Auckland, and he wanted me to continue the business. So that would have been a challenge, except that he was in Auckland, now I was in London, and you can't be any further away from Auckland. So it wasn't really a challenge, although it would have been. So there were not really any real challenges. I was very interested, and I wanted to know more. And so I just got into it immediately. Within a few days, I was chanting 16 rounds a day. Yes. And I had a very wonderful experience of just becoming absorbed in the mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, chanting this every day. At first, I couldn't, it was that was a bit of a challenge actually, to get used to the mantra. But it didn't take long, like 2 or 3 weeks, and I really sort of broke through, you could say. Yeah, and got into the mantra and really found that, wow, this is really nice. Yeah, this is amazing, actually. So other than that, there were no real challenges. Maybe some lingering material desires. Yeah, but I was kind of fed up with material existence. Yeah. Fed up. So I didn't mind, giving up meat eating, no problem at all. I just had no interest in it. Intoxication, no problem. I was fed up with those things. Yeah. And gambling, I never gambled in my life, actually, so that was no problem. And giving up the opposite sex, well, it wasn't really a problem. Yeah, because I could see that people, men and women, at least oftentimes, if not most of the time, they're not really happy together. They kind of struggle. And I found out later that it depends on the country, but in many countries, the divorce rate is between 1/3 and a half. Yes, which is not very encouraging. Yeah. So I didn't really, there were no serious challenges like, wow, what am I going to do about this? Yes.
Maharaj, you have associated with Srila Prabhupada for a long time. So any anecdote personally that you would like to share?
Okay, yes. Well, I think the simplest one for the people in general would be when Prabhupada first arrived at Bhaktivedanta Manor in England, which was 1973. It was perhaps May or June. I think it may have been June, but anyway, he came. First of all, he landed at Heathrow. It was the only airport in London at the time. But then he came to Bhaktivedanta Manor, which is kind of the other side of London, sort of, by helicopter. And there were a good few hundred devotees at Bhaktivedanta Manor from all over Europe, France and Italy and Germany and places like that, Belgium, Holland. There were devotee communities in all those countries. And they, maybe not all, but 75% or something, they came to London to see Prabhupada. So Prabhupada got out of the helicopter and entered Bhaktivedanta Manor, and there was sort of like a queue, everyone queued up. And Prabhupada was now in the building, but walking past all the devotees as he's walking through the building. And I was one of the relatively new boys. So I was kind of at the end of the queue, just at the bottom of the stairs, which go up to Prabhupada's quarters. So anyway, there I was, at the end of the line, and Prabhupada came, and we bowed down. We all bowed down in front of Srila Prabhupada on our hands and knees. And then Prabhupada stopped, and we didn't know, should we stay down for as long as it might take, or should we just get up and just carry on with life? So we took the conservative approach. We stayed down for a few minutes, actually, while Prabhupada was talking with a couple of devotees, senior, particularly Brahmananda Swami, who was a very big, heavily built devotee. Anyway, Prabhupada was immediately across, like a meter away or something, from the devotee who was next to me. So the devotee who was next to me, he stuck his hand out, slowly, and stretched a bit, and touched Prabhupada's lotus foot. And we are down. And then so he turned to me. We're down, you know, see? He turned to me like this, and he went, that I should touch Prabhupada's lotus feet too, you see? And he went, go on. So, okay, I was slightly further away, but I put my hand out, and out, and out, and out, and Brahmananda Swami, he saw this, and he had a big danda, the sannyas rod, and he saw my hand, and with his danda he went bang on my hand. So I pulled my hand back, like, okay, you know, this is too challenging. But the devotee next to me, you know, like this, he went, go on. So, okay, I tried again, and sticking my hand out, and out, and out, because he was further away, and out. And I managed to touch, just touch Prabhupada's lotus foot. And I think that's why I'm still here as a guest.
Maharaj, this year we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of the arrival of Srila Prabhupada to Mauritius. For the new generation who have not known Srila Prabhupada, or they are learning through the books, what message you have for them?
Yes, well, you know, I think in principle, the basic idea is that it may seem that Prabhupada is sort of like a distant figure, someone, you know, interesting, but he's not exactly like a person I know, some person I can see and speak to. So, and in this way, there may be a sort of a gap between the devotees who were not around in those days and Prabhupada. But the thing is this, that is a material conception. Because, you know, like when people die, just generally, ordinary people, when people die, then usually, I mean, in the great majority of cases, the family members and those who knew the person who's died, they gradually sort of forget about the person, and, you know, he or she is no longer like a prominent figure in their lives, generally. I mean, maybe not in all cases, but generally. But that's material. That's material. But now here we're talking about a spiritual relationship. And Srila Prabhupada himself made the point that I am present in my teachings, I am present in my books, I am present in service to me, and in certain other ways too. He is actually present. So the thing is this, first of all, we have to kind of accept that in principle. And then we have to kind of meditate on it and pray. Prayer is one of the processes, one of the 9 processes of devotional service. So we have to pray to Krishna and to Srila Prabhupada himself. Please help me to really, not just understand, but realize, get some like tangible consciousness of how Prabhupada is present in these forms, in these ways. And it's not just, you know, to make him seem more interesting or something like that. But please, we should pray, please help me to make Prabhupada's presence more tangible to me, more tangible. And if we do like that, because prayer is one of the processes, and it's extremely, not just important, it's vital in the sort of the formula of the things which make up being Krishna conscious. So if we pray like that, and if we try like that, and if we accept within our hearts like that, then before long we will start to get some tangible experience of Prabhupada's presence. Yeah, and not just as a distant authority figure or something like that, but he is actually present in my life. And that is kind of revolutionary. And one other thing I could say exactly about that is that in 1973, Janmashtami was August the 21st. I was in our central London temple. Prabhupada had come to Bhaktivedanta Manor to install the deities, Radha Gokulananda. And all of us, there are like 50 of us in the central London temple. Everybody wanted to go to be there for the deity installation with Prabhupada. But I was I was what is called the temple commander, means sort of second in charge, assisting the temple president. So the temple president, he said to me, you know, it is Janmashtami today, big day, it'll be a big program. One of us will have to stay here. Take a guess which one of us had to stay. You guessed right. It was me. And it was a bit disappointing initially. But then I just, after maybe half an hour of feeling a little like, oh gosh, why couldn't I go? Then I started thinking, I've read about this. How the spiritual master is present in his instructions in service to him. He is actually present. So I thought, let me meditate upon this and see what happens. Yeah, so I did. And very quickly, I really felt, it's a little difficult to sort of quantify or, define, but there's no doubt at all that I felt that Prabhupada was there. And I became really inspired in that it's such an important day. I'm in charge of the temple, actually, and a few hundred people came. I was in charge and I had to see everything went on. And it was really nice doing it as a service to Prabhupada, who was tangibly present. Yeah. And then the second thing, that was one thing. But the second thing was, the next day was Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. And all the devotees who did not go for the Janmashtami, we all went for the Vyasa Puja to the manor. And that was really nice. Just really nice. So that was my experience. And, it's something I've never forgotten. Now, it's almost 53 years later. That was 73. But it's something I've never forgotten. And it's been like a sort of a foundational reality in my life. Not just intellectually, like a conviction, I accept this strongly, but like a real experience. So, getting back to your point specifically, that the younger devotees today should try and do the same thing. And if they do, then, as far as I can see, they will get the same type of experience. And then they'll really feel the presence of Prabhupada and their own spiritual master, which will enrich their lives in Krishna consciousness and really deepen the whole experience of what is life in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the deep answer. So, dear devotees, we welcome you. So, we have two parts of the question and answers book today. First, it is a sort of podcast that we are asking Maharaj some questions. We are also sharing some papers in the public. Please write down your question. The second part of the session will be your part. of questioning Maharaj or giving your opinion. So now we ask Maharaj for the young generation some questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I had a question. Especially as students, how should we include Krishna consciousness in our life?
As students. Okay. Well, you know, if you were in South Africa, which you're not, but if you were, I would say, join one of our university Krishna conscious clubs. We have quite a number of them in all the big universities in the country. And some of them, like the one in one of the universities in Johannesburg, there's two, but in the one university, the club is huge. Yeah, like maybe 1,000 members. And when they have their weekly programs every Friday, they have between 150 and 300 students coming. Oh yeah. And would you believe, you know, that of course the population of South Africa in general is mainly African, black African people. The majority of the university students are black African. And in those university programs like that one I just mentioned, you know, I was there actually just, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, and there were at least 250 students there, and I'd say about 230 or 40 of them were African. There were a few Indians, a few whites, but otherwise practically everyone was African and just really interested. So, but anyway, this is Mauritius. And even though it's a majority Hindu country, from what I understand, you can't have university clubs. Okay, so that rules that out, sort of. So then, you know, what I would say is that you're staying at home and have a morning program, like along the lines at least of the programs in the temples. You know, you can have a Mongol Arati, at least chant. Japa, have a nice Japa chanting session, yeah, in the early morning, because the early morning is the best time for all these things. And then you got to do your studies, but you should do some time management. Time management, everyone's heard of time management, but not so many people do it very effectively. You know, actually make up a schedule. So if you do some time, the thing about if you do time management, you know what happens? You find you have more time. Mysteriously, it appears out of nowhere, apparently. Whereas if you just sort of, you know, go float through the day and all that, then you don't use time systematically. And even when you try to apply yourself to things, you don't apply yourself so strongly. Yeah, but when you do some time management and you've got a schedule, then it really helps to keep focused on whatever it is that you're meant to do at that time. Yeah, so I would say do like that. Study Prabhupada's books. You're a student, so study Prabhupada's books. Like students. Don't just read the books like any other, like a novel. Just read it. No, you study and take notes so that you really enter into the subject. So that's what I would say. And then we have around the world, and as far as I know in Mauritius, youth groups here and there, different parts of the country. So become a member of one of the youth groups. Then you get the association of people who are like you, and who are in the type of situation you're in, roughly. And, there's a sense of sort of belonging and being able to connect probably more easily than people who are a generation like 30 years older than you. Yeah, and become like take up a meaningful role in the youth club. Yes, like this. So through doing these types of these things, it'll really help you to become Krishna conscious. And I know we have so many young people in South Africa, and I know many of them. And many of them are initiated devotees, even though they are currently at university, or maybe they just finished university, something like that. Yeah, so there is nothing to stop a young person, making real progress in Krishna consciousness just because they're at university and, they have to study and do their exams and all that. Yeah, we've got many initiated students, or they were students, and they're like really good devotees, doing really important service.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, another question was, in the environment of like students, not everyone is, like a saint. There are many people who like smoke, they will be drinking, especially when there's like birthday parties, like they'll get you like there, and then like you see there's like more tequila than water, So in such environments, what do you think would be the ideal way of dealing with them? Like when you have friends who are more into drinking, smoking, just overall bad association as such.
Yeah, well, birds of a feather flock together. I mean, in a natural sense they do, but at least, even if at least they know that birds of a feather should flock together, then, amongst the students and all whoever the young people with all their whatever they're into, just find the devotees amongst them and try to establish relationships with them and with the other students. Then, of course, be nice. Don't sort of just brush them off too much, but be pleasant, but don't get entangled. Like we tell devotees who are working in offices that if you have your little cubicle or something, then try and make it your space. Yeah. And when they come in on Monday morning and tell you how much they drank and what drugs they took and, all the rest of it during the weekend, don't get into it. Don't get into it. Yeah, you keep in your space and try, without appearing to be like, what's the word? Not negligent, but like you don't want to appear like you think you're superior, something like that. Be nice, but just keep in your space and keep with devotees. And every now and then, bring some prasadam. Yeah. Like when there's a party, and I don't know what they do here, but if they drink and take things, bring a cake, and if everyone, if everyone takes a bit of cake, you'll see after some weeks or months, even if the same people are coming to the parties, but less of them are taking drugs and drinking, because the prasadam purifies them. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Maharaj, we see in the current times, especially last 3 to 4 years, we have seen significant number of wars which are taking place. The Russia-Ukraine war, even the tariff wars which are going on. Even we see Bangladesh, there's Nepal and India, Pakistan. So many wars are taking place. And what actually have you ascertained to be the solution for this kind of problems from the perspective of Bhagavatam, and what actually our spiritual organization like that Viswan can contribute for this solution?
Yes, that it appears that there are more wars now than there were when I was your age. Although there was Vietnam when I was your age. That was a big one. And there were others. But yes, one thing is we should not be sort of utopian in our thinking that, we'll just carry on and then all the wars will stop. They won't. Not until the number of devotees, percentage-wise, on the planet is much bigger than it is now. And in that way, we have a much greater influence on the public. But otherwise, just as an example, I used to go to Russia and Ukraine, Russia more than Ukraine, but Ukraine also. And I actually speak, to some degree, Russian. If you want, I could address you all in Russian. Yeah. Okay. Вы хотите, что я буду говорить несколько слов на русском языке? Do you want me to speak a few words in Russian language? Well, that's just what I did. Но я должен говорить по-английски, потому что люди здесь, они говорят по-английски. И если я говорю по-русски, они не будут понимать. Is that correct? See, she knows. She's from that part of the... Oh, no, she's a full-scale Russian there.
Thank you.
Okay, so... Yeah. And I know so many, particularly Russian, I know so many, hundreds and hundreds or thousands of Russian devotees. And I know many devotees in Ukraine. And I would have, if you had asked me a couple of years or so before the war started, if you had suggested that could there be a war between these two, I would have said, never. It's a completely ridiculous idea. But you see what has happened. It's because they are all conditioned souls. And they have all these tendencies, particularly the leaders, and particularly Mr. Putin. But don't tell him I said that, please. Yeah. He would like to see the Soviet Union again, but probably not communist. Anyway, let's not get into it. So, we have to try to, because being devotees or, gradually developing in Krishna consciousness, very quickly our consciousness changes compared to how it was before. And there's a tendency to be a bit utopian, to think that, you know, like I get on nicely with all different types of people. Why can't everybody else? Well, everybody else can't because they're deeply materially conditioned by lust, anger, greed, pride, envy, all these things. So wars are going to continue to happen. Who knows how the Russia-Ukraine war will end up, but you would assume it will end up sooner or later in one way or another. And whichever, you know, Mr. Putin and his tariffs, yeah, it's only going to last so long. And in Africa, the different Sudan and all that, Ethiopia, it'll stop. The Second World War stopped, Vietnam stopped. So they'll all stop, but then new ones will come. Even in ways which you wouldn't expect. Like Ukraine, Russia, I would never have expected it at all. So, but that's just life in the material world. But the thing is this, the first thing is, we at least as devotees, we have to take our Krishna consciousness very seriously and really focus on it as our main business in life. Not like, well, what are you studying?
I'm still studying chemistry and I'm not yet in university. I'm in science.
He's undergraduate, Maharaj.
Is it you're doing a BSc?
Something like that, yeah.
No, 11, grade 11.
I'm just
Oh, you're still at school.
Yeah.
Anyway, you'll have an eye-opening experience when you get into university. But, okay, so let us just for argument's sake say that you get a BSc later on, after a few years, and now you are let's just say, a chemical engineer. Yeah, we have many devotees who are chemical engineers, actually. So now, are you a chemical engineer who is also a devotee? Or are you a devotee who, you know, because you got to make a living, you do chemical engineering? That should be the perspective. I am a devotee first, not I am a chemical engineer, and I also do some Krishna consciousness. Try and keep that sort of perspective. So we, as devotees, we should try and live like that. Who am I? What am I? My identity. I am a devotee of the Lord. That's who I am. That's what I am. But to make a living, because, you know, the great majority of young people, they end up getting married and having families. And having a family is an expensive business. You know, a lot of young people think it's all just lovey-dovey. But you got to get the rupees coming in sufficiently. Otherwise, it becomes really tricky, or too tricky. So, yeah, so we should do like that. And then, you know, even if the world becomes an even bigger mess, like if there's a world war, it's not just Russia versus Ukraine, but, you know, it's a whole big thing. But if we maintain our Krishna consciousness, then we can remain unaffected by it. Yeah. So that's an idea.
Very wonderful, Maharaj. Thank you for that answer. You made actually one nice statement. in order to experience the presence of Prabhupada, there are various ways to do it. One is by studying the Prabhupada books. One is seeing the Prabhupada in Prabhupada's servitors.
Right.
And no, we have actually seen the first generation, the kind of commitment they have shown to the entire movement. The life, the blood, everything is given for the moment, the dedication and all. Now, if the next generation, the second generation, third generation, if they have to remain the similar kind of commitment and make this movement to move forward and bring some sanity for this little world, what is it actually lacking and how can actually this can be bridged so that the same kind of committed devotees can emerge?
Yeah. Well, I did actually, the principle I was talking about earlier, like my own experience of Prabhupada being there. So if devotees apply themselves in the ways you mentioned and accept within their hearts that, Prabhupada has made the point, and not just Prabhupada made the point, but it's there in scripture that the real pure spiritual persons, they are present in their instructions, in remembrance of them, in service to them, and like that. So, if the generations are able to apply themselves in those ways, then it can go on for hundreds of generations. Yeah. Without a problem, actually. And in fact, we see that there are devotees. It's one thing for me, I'm a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Okay? So that's one thing for me. And I had some association with him. But now there are not many, but a few gurus in ISKCON who are not disciples of sorry. Should we cut the wires? I've done that before. Is it it's not Bollywood, is it? It's kind of devotional. Radha something. So where were we? So, where were we?
Yes, Maharaj, you want to explain?
Maharaj, you were saying that if the next...
Oh, okay, yeah. So I was saying that we had in ISKCON not a lot, but a few devotees who are gurus. Things like, they're really serious devotees and they're advanced devotees. I mean, Kadamba Maharaj used to come here. He was in that position. Of course, unfortunately, he passed away, which is, that's just something else. But there are living disciples of disciples of disciples of Srila Prabhupada. There are, yeah, disciples of disciples of Prabhupada, and they're very good devotees. And as far as I'm concerned, because you know I watch these people, they are bona fide gurus and very good devotees. So the thing is, I mean, the idea is the principle can just go on indefinitely. And for that matter, you know, in the Sri Sampradaya, the line of Ramanujacharya, the situation is like that. He was living, I think 1200 years ago or something. I mean, a good number of years ago, not just 500 like Lord Caitanya, long. So, but the line is very strong. It's very strong, yeah. And Madhvacharya, the same thing is there. So there's nothing stopping the same sort of basic idea happening, and it is happening already within ISKCON. But, you know, all in these, the Sri Sampradaya and the Madhvas, there is in both of them a clear understanding of the presence of the original, initial Acharya, and everyone having a connection. It's not just like he's just one of the old ones, you know, one of the previous ones. No, he is like a real entity in and of his own right. Yeah, having like a supreme type of position as an Acharya within the line. And this is important to have with Prabhupada, because his position is exactly like that, exactly like that. He is founder Acharya. It's a specific type of position. It's not just Acharya. There can be many Acharyas. I mean, there are. But founder Acharya is a unique position in a line and must be maintained, and the members must be helped to, you know, to maintain that consciousness of Prabhupada. They must be helped. And if they are, it doesn't mean that the current day gurus, and I'm talking now about the other lines, that they're just, you know, some nice devotees or something. No, they're gurus. They're very important people, but under the original person. So that we need to do, and then it'll go on like that. And even, you know, for that matter, Christianity, of course, you know, they're much more mixed up because there's so much meat eating, intoxication, and phew. Yeah, but particularly the Madhva line and the Ramanuja line, they're still going on. And they're doing well, they're doing very well. So we have to promote Prabhupada in that way and help the devotees to realize the presence of Prabhupada. Yeah. Prabhupada was asked that, is the spiritual master within the heart of the disciple? Prabhupada said, yes, if you let me in. Yeah, which is sort of the same idea. We got to let him in. Otherwise, he ends up becoming one of these old sort of authorities from the past, and you know, it's all very well, but not so important, not that unique importance.
Thank you, Maharaj. So now we are going to come to the questions from the public. there is anyone who has written a question, who wants to ask the question directly from the mic.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for this wonderful session, no devotees. My question is, so have you heard that ISKCON London, they acquired Sevenberry Place?
Right.
And so my question is, what do you think would be the best way to utilize this historic building?
Okay. Are you aware of that, devotees? You're aware of that?
They bought the place there, no?
Yeah, well, the devotees, just a matter of a couple of weeks ago or something, bought the building which was the previous temple in central London and where I joined, actually, and lived. It's just down the road, not more than a one round walking.
I just wanted to add, it happened magically. They acquired it in auction,
Yes.
and they won it a day before the installation anniversary of Sri Sri Radhalandanishwara.
Oh.
Just the day before, yes, the temple president, they were part of the team, they acquired it, and then so they offered it to the Sri Sri Radhalandanishwara the next day with the key hanging on his hand from the Sevenberry Place. They put the key offering that day, so it was very, very magical.
Right. Yeah, so that original temple in central London, the devotees bought it a matter of weeks ago, £1.6 million.
Actually, they're still collecting the money. They have 30 days to pay, so there is option to offer your donation. So on the website you can go and there's a link and you can donate because they're still collecting the money. They don't have all the money yet,
Right.
and they would have to, if they don't collect all the money, they would have to basically keep the current tenants and lease, sort of to pay the mortgage. So they won't be able to do anything until they pay off. But then once they're completely paid off, then they can, they take, so at the moment they take all the inspirations, like what to do with the building.
So what I would say what to do with it, I think it would be good to make some sort of preaching facility. Some sort of preaching facility. That's what I would say.
Do you think Srila Prabhupada's museum would be also rooms, maybe reestablished there?
Could be, yeah. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Okay.
It says how in
Microphone. Oh. You read it.
It says how we in Creole we say oh bon Dieu, oh good God, in French, we say oh good God, It says how come if God is good, why is there so much problems in this world? And that's like a question.
That's the question.
Yeah, that's the question.
Okay. If God is good, why are there so many problems in this world? Because God is not alone here. God is sort of outnumbered by the conditioned souls. And the conditioned souls are generally, the vast majority, not good. In fact, they're pretty bad, actually. And things like meat-eating, intoxication, illicit sex life, gambling, these are common, so extremely common. And these things corrupt people. They corrupt people. Just one of them. Even if someone is avoiding the other three, but doing any one of the other one of the four, that person's consciousness, their minds, their hearts will be deeply corrupted, and they will just, they'll just get caught up in all sorts of other things and likely get involved in the other three. I'll give you an example. In America, a lot of qualified Indian people from India with university degrees, they go to America, they get good jobs, they earn lots. 1 minute. And they have children, and they themselves are pious. They may be, in so many cases, they're vegetarian, etc., etc. But then, to their surprise, they find when their children are particularly at university, then their children come home that, I tried marijuana, I think it's quite nice. I think I'm going to get into it, etc. And the parents coming from India and very pious, they can't understand, how is this happening? But it's because the children are going to the schools and the universities, and they're just surrounded by all these Americans. I did a program in a high school in New York, actually in Long Island, which is more or less part of New York, some years ago. And as we were coming in, there was like a big, long notice board. The first notice said, "Are you pregnant? Contact this number." The next part said, "Are you addicted to some intoxicant? Contact this number." The next thing said, "Are you suicidal? Contact this." And there was a couple of other things too. Are you psychotic or... Because these things are going on amongst the American youth. And when the children from the pious Indian families are sort of dumped in the middle of that, unless they're really good, they get sucked into it. And so the family just goes down. And so, anyway, let's just say that. And I have to finish now. So I hope I haven't worked you over too much, beaten you over the heads too much.
Thank you, Maharaj, for the deep questioning and also the deep analysis and the words of wisdom that you have shared with us. So together, let's chant together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Maharaj.